Thank you very much. Am I audible? I think the point has been made by Professor Mandal, before him, Mr. Singh, and many other experts before, that whereas the Planning Commission was, for long, it was said that it had not kept in tune with the needs of the economy, and after 1991, it was struggling to define a role for itself. But at the same time, the abolition of the Planning Commission and its replacement by the Niti Aayog has sort of created a vacuum in terms of the states not having any platform for dialogue with the center in terms of their annual plans, in terms of negotiating for funds and bargaining for schemes to eliminate or reduce regional imbalances, because the finance ministry is not very equipped to perform that sort of a role. The finance ministry's primary focus at all points in time is revenue collection and fiscal deficit, and that by its very nature kind of conflicts with states wanting more funds or funds in a certain way for spending, for development expenditure, etc. So I absolutely agree that after the Planning Commission was abolished, there is a vacuum, and the states need some sort of platform in the center to talk about these things to the center. The more immediate issue, I think, in fiscal federalism that we are facing already and will face is on the GST. Already collections are falling short of the 14% growth year on year that was, I think, projected. And states are wanting an extension of the assured compensation from the center for shortfalls in what they projected as collections. And in fact, some of the compensation that has to be paid to them, state finance ministers have come to Delhi last week and complained that those are pending. They are not getting their dues. Now, why has GST turned out to be the way it has? I think the political economy of it is responsible over here. The mechanism of the GST Council, which is the main institution that is common platform on which the center and the states talk to each other on these issues, comprises of state finance ministers, and state finance ministers stand to lose bulk of their clout. Now, this is a political economy issue. They stand to lose bulk of their clout if the GST becomes very smooth, because that would mean no discretion for state finance ministers. That would mean nobody would come to them and lobby for changes in tax cuts, removal or addition to exemption lists. And state finance ministers' job would not be as high profile as it is right now. So I think what is happening is that at the GST Council, there are these bunch of politicians, all of who want, whether they realize it or not, but if they have to perpetuate their clout, they have to perpetuate discretion, and they have to perpetuate complications, and that's not what the rest of the economy wants. So perhaps it is time for us to begin to question if we need a different institutional setup in place of the GST Council, and also how prudent it is to keep revisiting the tax structure, the compliance structure, and if less political inputs and more of technical inputs begin to go into these decisions. Finally, I wanted to make a small point on the uses of cesses by the central government, which is another sticking point between the center and the states. All the cesses that the center collects, they don't share that money with the states. They get to keep all of it. And I think at the last calculation, the center's collecting almost 14% of its gross taxes as cesses, which I think is very unfair to states. And that is probably another point that needs to be discussed.